There is a force that holds more people back than poverty, more people down than failure, and more people hostage than prison bars. It is fear, fear, the silent destroyer of dreams, fear, the invisible thief of confidence. Fear, the unseen chain that shackles the boldest intentions. But I am here to tell you today, fear can be destroyed forever. Transition intensifying tone, you were not born with fear. A child is not afraid to fall. A baby doesn't fear crawling. A toddler does not fear walking into the unknown. Fear is not natural. It is learned, and what is learned can be unlearned. Main body confident, rhythmic delivery fear feeds on hesitation. It grows stronger when you wait. It multiplies when you pause. It thrives when you think more than you act. You destroy fear not by thinking. It thrives on thought. You destroy fear by moving. The moment you take a step forward despite the fear, you begin to kill it. Every time you act in spite of your fear, it dies a little. Every time you speak up when your voice trembles, fear weakens. Every time you show up, rise up, and push forward when everything in you says wait. You destroy fear at its roots. Fear is a liar. It tells you you're not ready. It whispers you'll fail. It shouts, what will they think? It repeats, you can't handle it. But here is the truth. Everything fear says is based on your imagination, not your reality. You're not afraid of what's actually happening. You're afraid of what might happen. That's not fear. That's fantasy. Declaration firm, rising intensity. The most successful people in the world feel fear, but they do not obey it. They have trained their minds to ask a better question. What would I do right now if I had no fear? That question is the key, because inside every one of us there is a version of ourselves that is unstoppable. There is a version that does not hesitate, that does not doubt, that does not care what others think. That version of you is still there. It's just buried beneath years of fear, but you can bring it back. You can resurrect that boldness. How? No one is born afraid. The infant who takes its first breath has no concept of failure, no notion of shame, no idea that danger even exists. The child does not fear the fall it embraces it. It does not dread judgment. It laughs loudly and lives boldly. It does not cower in the presence of the unknown. It explores it with eager hands and wide eyes. Fear is not a part of your original design. It is an addition, something you picked up along the road of life. Like rust on iron, it settles slowly, covering your courage, eating away at your boldness, until you begin to believe it was always there. But it wasn't. Fear is not your nature. It is your conditioning. You were taught to fear, taught to hold back, taught to stay safe, taught to settle for less, to doubt your abilities, to avoid risk, to cling to comfort. By well-meaning teachers, cautious parents, hesitant friends, by a society that reveres safety more than greatness. But what is taught can be untaught. What has been accepted can be rejected. The first step in destroying fear is recognizing it does not belong to you. It is not part of your true self. It is a squatter in the house of your mind. Do not speak of fear as if it were a permanent condition. It is not an identity. It is a habit, and habits can be broken. The moment you stop calling fear my fear, and start calling it what it is, a mental parasite, you reclaim your power. You begin to see clearly that fear is not a wall, but a fog. It cannot hold you back unless you let it settle. You were created with the capacity for greatness. Fear did not come with you. It was laid on top of you, layer by layer, word by word, experience by experience, but you can peel those layers away. Every belief you hold that says, I can't. Every hesitation that whispers, it's too late. Every voice inside you that says, you're not enough. These were not planted by your Creator. They were planted by people who stopped believing in their own potential. And here is the truth. When you were a child, you believed you could fly. You believed anything was possible. That was not foolishness. That was truth before the world buried it. Your job now is to return to that truth, to strip away the fear that was never yours. To remind yourself daily, I was not born afraid, I was trained to fear, but I can train myself to rise again. Burn this into your mind, fear is not who you are, it's who you were told to be, and the day you reject that identity is the day you begin to live free. Fear has a secret weakness. It does not survive movement. It lives in stillness, in delay, in hesitation, in overthinking. The longer you sit with fear, the stronger it grows. But the moment you act, truly act, fear begins to dissolve. Action is fear's greatest enemy. Action exposes the lie. You see, fear whispers only in silence. It only has power when your mind is idle and your body is still. It thrives in the shadows of what if, in the fog of someday, but when you move, when you rise, when you step into the thing you dread, fear no longer has a place to hide. The truth is simple. Fear cannot paralyze the man or woman who has already decided to act. If you wait to feel ready, you'll never begin. If you wait for fear to vanish, you'll wait forever. You don't conquer fear with comfort. You conquer it with commitment. Think back to every fear you've ever faced, every one that made your heart race, that made your palms sweat, that tempted you to run, and now ask yourself, what happened when you actually did it? Did the sky fall? Did the world end? No. What happened was this. Your fear shrank, and your confidence grew, because courage is not the absence of fear. It is movement in the presence of it. The man who moves while afraid becomes fearless. When you act, you take back control. You shift from being the hunted to being the hunter. You shift from a reactive life to a created one, and most importantly, you rewire your own mind. Every step you take in the face of fear builds a new belief. I can handle this. I will not break. You don't need to take massive leaps. You only need to move forward, inch by inch, brick by brick, step by step. Because fear cannot stand in a life that is always moving forward. Act even when your voice shakes. Act even when your legs tremble. Speak even when your words come out imperfect. The fear will scream louder at first, it always does. But when you refuse to obey it, it begins to fall silent. There is no strategy more powerful than immediate action, not motivation, not knowledge, not perfect planning. Action is the cure. You want to destroy fear. Move toward it. You want to reclaim your power. Do the very thing that scares you. You want to be free. Then understand this. No amount of wishing will make fear disappear. Only doing will. So decide now. Whatever it is you've been putting off, avoiding, fearing, do it today. Take the first step, not tomorrow, not next week, now, because when you move, fear dies. Fear is a master illusionist. It does not deal in facts. It deals in fiction. It deals in shadows and guesses, not truth. It creates pictures in your mind that feel real, but are not real, and yet people surrender their entire lives to these pictures. Understand this. Fear is almost never about what is. It is about what might be. Fear says, what if I fail? Fear says, what if they laugh? Fear says, what if I lose everything? But have you ever noticed, the feared event almost never happens. The failure is rarely as bad as you imagined. The laughter is usually quieter than you feared. The loss, if it comes, never breaks you like you thought it would. That's because fear doesn't live in reality. It lives in imagination. It is a misuse of one of your greatest gifts, your creative mind. The same imagination that can build empires, invent machines, cure diseases, and envision greatness can also be turned against you. It can become a weapon that convinces you to stay small, to play it safe, to never begin. When you allow fear to rule your thinking, you're letting your imagination become a prison instead of a playground. You see, the mind cannot tell the difference between what is vividly imagined and what is actually experienced. So when you rehearse failure in your mind, when you visualize rejection, when you imagine catastrophe, you feel as if it's real. Your heart races, your palms sweat, you freeze, but none of it has happened. It's all a dream, a nightmare dressed as logic. Now here is the question. If imagination can produce fear, can it also produce power? The answer is yes. And that is the key. What if, instead of imagining everything that could go wrong, You imagined everything that could go right. What if you visualized success? What if you rehearsed victory? What if you trained your mind to picture strength instead of weakness? That is not delusion. That is mental discipline. That is the deliberate use of your mind for your own growth, not your own destruction. If fear is imagination misused, then courage is imagination mastered. Reality is rarely as bad as your fears suggest. Most fears melt in the presence of truth. They only seem large when viewed through the lens of what if. So the next time fear begins to creep in, ask yourself, is this really happening, or am I just imagining it? And if it's only imagination, then you have the power to change the image. You are the director of the film that plays in your mind. If you don't like the story, rewrite it, because fear has no roots in reality. It only survives in minds that allow it. And when you take control of your imagination, fear loses its home. Courage is not something you are born with. It is something you build. No man becomes courageous by reading about it. No woman becomes fearless by wishing for it. Strength of spirit is not developed in comfort. It is forged in challenge, through daily exposure to the very things that frighten you. Let this truth settle deep into your mind. Every single fear you face weakens the hold that fear has on your life, not in theory, not in imagination, but in practice. You cannot wish fear away. You cannot pray it away. You must train it away through action, through contact, through deliberate exposure to that which makes you tremble. Just as the body grows stronger through resistance, the mind grows stronger through confrontation. Avoidance is the diet of fear. Every time you retreat, you feed it. You confirm its power, but every time you confront it, even in small ways, you starve it. Face the fear, and it shrinks. Avoid it, and it expands. And here is the mistake most people make. They think courage is a one-time event, that they'll have one glorious moment of bravery and be changed forever. No, courage is not born in a single act. It is built like a muscle, day by day, step by step, moment by moment. You face what scares you not once, but daily. You speak when your voice shakes. Every day, you take that cold shower. Every day, you ask for the opportunity, request the feedback, take the risk. Every day. These are not grand gestures. They are daily disciplines, and each one lays a brick in the foundation of unstoppable confidence. The man who dares to lean into fear becomes untouchable. The woman who meets resistance head on becomes unstoppable. Not because the fear vanishes, but because they grow bigger than the fear itself. You do not become fearless by accident. You become fearless by training your mind to see fear as a signal, not to run, but to move forward. Let others wait. Let others hesitate. Let others be ruled by their doubts. You go toward it. You make fear your compass. If it scares you, that's the direction. If it makes your stomach twist, that's the next step. If it terrifies you but calls to you, it is time, because growth does not come from what is easy. It comes from what is just beyond your comfort, and the one who walks into discomfort daily becomes immune to it. So do not ask for less fear. Ask for more courage, and then build that courage, daily, deliberately, consistently, until fear knocks at the door and finds no one left inside to answer. Your greatest battle is not in the world, it is in your mind. What you say to yourself, silently and repeatedly, becomes the script of your life. It becomes your belief. It becomes your reality. The words you allow to circulate through your mind each day are not harmless. They are instructions you give to your subconscious. And your subconscious, without hesitation, obeys. If you speak fear, you become fear. If you speak doubt, you attract failure. If you speak weakness, you live small. But if you dare to speak power, you begin to reshape your destiny. The man who says, "I can't," has already failed. The woman who says, "I'm not ready," has already quit. The voice that repeats, "What if I'm not good enough?" builds a prison around possibility. Words are not just sounds, they are signals. Each phrase you speak plants a seed, and that seed, over time, grows into either chains or wings. Ask yourself this: what words are you feeding your mind? If you woke up this morning and said, "This is too hard." If you looked at a challenge and whispered, "I'll never make it." If you ended your day thinking, "Why even try?" then fear is not your enemy. You are training it to stay. But the moment you shift your language, you begin to shift your power. Speak differently, and your mind will behave differently. Say "I will" when fear says you can't. Say "I am ready" even when your knees shake. Say "I am built for this," and not because you feel it now, but because you are choosing to become it. The strongest people in the world do not always feel brave, but they've trained their minds to speak brave until bravery becomes their natural language. Affirmations are not empty words. They are declarations of intent. And when repeated with belief, they become fuel for action. Your words are the thermostat of your life. Speak low, live low. Speak high, rise high. If your internal dialogue is filled with hesitation, comparison, and self-attack, you are building a fortress for fear to live in. But if your internal dialogue is built on resolve, focus, and purpose, fear cannot stay for long. It has no place to rest. Start today. Guard your inner world like a fortress. Refuse to speak failure over your future. Refuse to declare weakness when strength is required. Your life will always move in the direction of your most dominant thoughts, and your thoughts are shaped by your words. Speak victory even in defeat. Speak strength even in fear. Speak forward even when the road is not yet visible, because the voice you obey the most will become the life you live. Fear is loud in the moment, but silent in the future. Regret is quiet in the moment, but screams for a lifetime. One fades, the other follows you. The pain of fear is temporary. It rises up when you're about to act. It tightens your chest when you're near the edge of change. It makes your hands shake before the leap, but it disappears the moment you step forward. It cannot survive in movement, but regret is eternal. It comes later, when the opportunity has passed, when the time is gone, when the door is no longer open. And it does not scream like fear. It whispers over and over again, "You should have. You could have. Why didn't you?" Regret is the weight of what could have been, and nothing crushes the spirit more than knowing you had a chance to rise and didn't take it. Here is the great deception. Fear feels heavier in the moment, so we choose the easy path. We delay, we avoid, we justify, and in doing so, we think we are choosing peace. But it is false peace. It is borrowed comfort. Because days turn into weeks and weeks into years, and one morning you look back and realize you did not live, you existed. You did not stretch, you stayed. You did not leap, you waited, and now the fear is gone. But so is the chance. You must learn this now. Fear is the price of growth, but regret is the cost of avoidance, and only one of them is permanent. Would you rather feel the fire for 5 minutes and be free for life, or avoid the fire and carry the ashes of regret forever? The people you admire, those who build, who create, who lead, they feel fear too, but they choose discomfort now so they can live fulfilled later. They make a trade, the temporary sting of courage for the lasting joy of freedom. You can make the same trade. Yes, it is hard to act in the face of fear, but it is far harder to live knowing you never tried. Yes, your legs may shake when you step forward, but they will shake more when you stand still too long and realize you've missed your calling. Fear may bruise your ego, but regret wounds your soul. So the next time fear stands in front of you, whisper this to yourself: I would rather suffer the pain of trying than the pain of wondering what could have been. This is the way of the bold, the brave. The free, they know fear is a passing storm, but regret is a permanent shadow. Act now, decide now, move now, because every second you hesitate, regret sharpens its knife. And when the story of your life is written,
Let it not be said that fear held the pen,